You can take a flower, roll it up and make it fine. Sprinkle it with knowledge and a little bit of time. Cover it with headlines and a sweet euphoria too. Cannabis Man, Cannabis Man, Cannabis Man. Spreading news and joy across the land. Diving deep into the growing green. Cannabis Man, we're all king.
Hello, and welcome into another episode of the Cannabis Man podcast. Thank you for clicking on the show. I am your host, Don Kleppen, and it is the most wonderful week of the year, arguably. It is 420 week. And you know, listener, if you've listened to the show, 420 is big-time cannabis holiday. It's become a lot more mainstream over the last several years, and I welcome that as cannabis, the green frontier, is expanding all the time. And 420 also marks the anniversary of when I created and launched this show 3 years ago. So this podcast is now 3 years old. And in that time, it has grown to one of the top podcasts around the world. Of the millions that exist out there, this is rated in the top 10% of all podcasts by Listen Notes. Good Pods has ranked it the number 1 indie news podcast and top 5 cannabis podcasts all together. This show has also reached 87 countries around the world, all 50 states in the U.S. So I feel very, very fortunate, and I am certainly going to be celebrating 420 this weekend. And there's a lot that you can do to celebrate 420 as well. In the last decade plus that cannabis has become more recreationally legal around America and the world at large, certainly, there are many, many events celebrating this holiday, which is becoming more and more mainstream all the time. I've got a collection of those events. So if you haven't made your plans yet for what you got going on this weekend, stick around and maybe one of these events will tickle your fancy. Of course, I also have a collection of news headlines that I'm going to rifle through for you. Some big information news out of Capitol Hill on the rescheduling effort. Some big news out of Illinois in terms of that smell of cannabis and the odor, and whether or not police can still use that as a probable cause to search a vehicle. And there's also a debate that I have seen kind of rippling through the cannabis community. I'm going to bring that debate to this show, and I want to hear your opinion about it. I've also got a guest interview, as I like to do this week, with an expert in the space. My guest this week is co-founder of a cannabis company. They are selling products around the country, and they operate their home base, if you will, is in New York and New Jersey, that tri-state area there. I'm talking about the company TribeTokes. And my guest, KymB, is going to talk about her journey, the company at large, and give you some things that I think you'll be really excited to hear, and some products that you should earmark for this 420 weekend or any time beyond. And on top of all of that, I do have a gift guide for the stoner in your life. If you are celebrating 420 and you want some new toys, some new gadgets, some new ways to ingest or experience cannabis, I have got a whole gift guide for you to either gift for yourself or somebody that you care about to get the stoner in your life. Plenty of 420 options available. All of that is coming up for you on this episode. If you would do me a favor, leave a rating or review for this show, however you're listening to it. If it's Spotify, leave that star rating right underneath the title of this show. If it's YouTube, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. If it's Apple, leave your star ratings and review this episode. All of that is a big help to me. It helps this show continue to stand out from the other millions of podcasts out there. I really appreciate you helping me out that way. So we got a packed episode to get to and lots of information ahead of this 420 weekend that I want to share with you. So let's get to it. Here's the Cannabis Man podcast.
This This is Tommy Chong, and you're listening to the Cannabis Broadcast.
Oh, yeah. Now we're into this 420 edition of the Cannabis Man podcast. I cannot believe that it's been 3 years that I've been doing this show. As I've talked about, if you've been listening to me from the beginning, thank you so much, but you've heard me say it many, many times. The reason that I started this show was because I felt that more people out there could benefit from the real information that we know about the cannabis plant, things like cannabinoids and terpenes, extraction techniques for concentrates, all this kind of stuff, and then experts talking about what specific quality of life issues cannabis can help address. One of the big hiccups, and I think still hang-ups, if you will, with this cannabis prohibition is that over the last almost 100 years, since 1937, when this prohibition of cannabis took force earnestly, one of the effects of this time has been the very successful misinformation campaign waged by the U.S. government, FBI, DEA, these agencies that for decades have told us all of the dangers of this cannabis plant, put out pamphlets like the Reefer Madness, the DARE education that police officers going into elementary school classrooms and telling all the kids about the dangers of drugs, including cannabis. All of that messaging has left a real impact on the minds of the citizens of this world. And the ripple effects, the lingering stigma around the plant has made it so that many people out there who might be able to benefit from it would never give it a chance because of its prohibited status and all of the warnings that they've received from authority figures and people that they trust. So when cannabis started to become legal medically and certainly recreationally here in the United States, I was really looking forward to people starting to have the real conversations that me and my friends and other stoners did at parties in our late teens and 20s while we were using this plant to unwind or deal with chronic pain or stress or anxiety or any of the things that cannabis can kind of help with. We talked about how great the discovery of it was for us, how wonderful it's made, our lives and kind of what we use it for to deal with things. And I was really excited to see those conversations materialize out there in the mainstream, the regular old normal world, the 9-to-5ers and the day walkers and the people out there who just are living normal lives and kind of the normies, if you will. I knew that millions of them out there could benefit from the cannabis plant the way that we do, and yet those conversations, the kind that I just described, have still not materialized in the mainstream. Major media companies, some of which I work for, are still scared to touch this topic. They repeat a lot of the same things that people did in the past about for instance, the tobacco companies when they were looking to muddy the waters in terms of dangers from cigarettes. Tobacco companies were very interested not in trying to convince people that cigarettes were good, but what they did was they just simply asked for certainty. They asked for more clarification, more information. Because, and I'm reading about this in a great book right now called The Misinformation Age. If you're a reader, put that on your list. But they, in this book, are outlining exactly how propagandists and companies with an interest in maintaining their profits when they're selling something that's been proven harmful. This book lays out exactly how they have been able to kind of keep people guessing as to what the real truth is about the harm potential of these products. And the way they do it is simply by trying to muddy the waters, and they ask for absolute certainty before people change their behavior one way or the other. The reality is, science is almost never absolutely certain about anything. And so it might seem like that's kind of an innocuous request. Oh, we just need some more studies. Oh, we just need to be sure about this one way or the other. But they know deep down that that's never going to happen. And in the meantime, that little bit of doubt that they might sow by asking for certainty is enough to keep people behaving the same way they did. So in the case of the tobacco companies, it meant that they could still sell cigarettes for decades after the scientific community knew that they were harmful to people. And I see this now in the cannabis space. As my friend Paul Armentano of Normal likes to say, we know all we need to know about the cannabis plant in terms of its long-term harm potentials, which is to say it's negligible compared to that offered by cigarettes and alcohol and sugar and all these other substances that are totally normalized in our society. Now, before I move on into some of these 420 topics, I do want to reiterate something that I've been, trying to hammer home these past 3 years that I've been doing this show. I do not believe that cannabis is right for everybody, and I don't believe it's a miracle cure that'll solve all your problems. I don't believe that. There are plenty of intelligent people out there whom I respect, who have tried it and they found it's not for them. Maybe they had a bad time. Maybe they enjoyed the time, but they just find that it doesn't really fit into their life. That is totally acceptable. That is totally fine. I don't feel the need to argue with them or debate with them the merits of cannabis. I don't feel like it's my job to sell them on the plant. I don't think that all 8 billion people on this planet will enjoy it or benefit from it the same way that I do. Everybody's different. We definitely share certain characteristics, and some things are the same for all of us. We're all human beings. Our bodies mostly work the same way. We do have an endocannabinoid system, but some people like whiskey, others like tequila or beer. Some people don't like to drink at all. Some people like red meat. Others are vegetarians. Some are vegan. Part of the beauty of this world is the wide array and the vast canvas of opinions out there among humanity. We all get to have our different opinions. Something that might get you totally jazzed up might not move the needle for me at all. I like sports. I watch football. I've been enjoying baseball now that that's back. Basketball's getting into the playoffs. I can pretty much watch any sport and get into it, but that is definitely not the case for everybody. And that's okay. That doesn't mean that I'm right or they're wrong. It's a difference of opinion, difference of taste. And I feel that that's there with cannabis as well. But my stance and my reason for really doing this show and my ultimate message on this point is that for those of us for whom cannabis is right, for those of us who have found it brings something to our lives that was missing before, that it helps us deal with negative quality of life issues like getting to sleep or maintaining restful sleep, chronic body pain, stress, anxiety, appetite, a whole host of these issues that cannabis helps some people with. We, in that group, should have the same freedom to use this plant as freely as those who drink alcohol do, or those who consume sugar on a regular basis do, or red meat, or whatever it is that kind of gets you through the day, whatever you lean on as part of, kind of helping yourself get by under the burden of living. I don't see any reason why those of us who choose cannabis should not be afforded the same freedoms to enjoy it as everybody else does with their substances of choice. That is really my stance on this issue, and that is why part of the reason I started the Cannabis Man podcast. I also started it because I am a broadcaster and I work in newsrooms. I've been a broadcast journalist for going on 15 years now, which is another thing that's kind of crazy for me to say. It certainly hasn't felt that long. But as this green frontier is expanding every day, and this prohibition is kind of ending slowly or quickly in some places, but it still persists as strong as it ever was in some other places, as this patchwork legalization effort is moving across America and the world at large. There's new information about it every single day, and there are headlines that are related to this legal cannabis space that I think there are a lot of people out there who are interested in hearing, and so that is part of why I started this show as well, to bring you these headlines and this information that I think that you need to hear. And so today, on this very special 420 week, I've got some pretty exciting news stories to share with you. And I'll start with what I view as the biggest headline of the week. This is from thebusinessofcannabis.com, written by Ben Stevens, published yesterday from when I'm recording this, April 14th. And the headline reads, "Cannabis rescheduling, quote, delayed, not dead." End quote, despite DEA's apathy. I've shared this article below. The link is in the description notes. You can click on it and follow along if you'd like. The U.S. Cannabis Roundtable, USCR, One of the most influential advocacy groups in the country is still optimistic about the president acting on cannabis reform. Now, the U.S. Cannabis Roundtable is formerly known as the U.S. Cannabis Council, and the Senior Vice President of Public Affairs, David Culver, who I've had on this show several times, big fan of his, and he's doing great work. He told the Green Market Report that he believes ongoing speculation over the death of the rescheduling process, which started under the Biden administration, is premature. Despite growing evidence that the DEA has moved to undermine the process, stuff that I have highlighted on this show for the past year just about, and plenty of investigation into the attitudes towards cannabis of the new administration, Culver believes the ultimate decision will lie with the president and that the industry is going to have to wait our turn. That's a quote from him. With the process currently stuck in limbo pending the conclusion of an interlocutory appeal into the DEA's neutrality, the ball remains in the DEA's court for now. The article goes on to say, as Trump places loyalty above all else in his administration, and that anyone that strays from the president's line on key issues is often set aside immediately, Culver suggested that the neutrality of key officials regarding cannabis was little to worry about. Another quote from David Culver here, there are an equal number of key administration officials that are very, very pro-cannabis reform, David said. He added that he remained confident the president, quote, has evolved on this issue considerably since he was in office last time around, but that cannabis reform simply was not a priority for the first months of this administration. I think the DEA are going to need to get direction from the president in order for rescheduling to occur. The big question is when. And that's all I'm going to read of the article. You can finish it off for yourself. There's some more information in there, but I respect what David Culver has to say. As I've said when I talked with him, I think he's a great resource and has the finger on the pulse of what's going on there in Washington, especially relating to cannabis. And I think that he's right about what he says about Trump. Everybody can see that loyalty is important to the guy. I also believe that he doesn't really allow people to sway his opinions on things one way or the other. We've seen that with these tariffs. So the fact that the DEA, as they've shown before, feels as strongly as they do about cannabis, and again, I'm not going to get into it, but I believe the fact that they're at all in this process of arbitrating the future of cannabis legalization is just such a joke because it goes against their self-interest. But again, I'm not going to get back up on that soapbox. My point right now is that I think David Culver is right when he says rescheduling is not dead, but as with so much else over these next, 4 years, it's really going to come down to how President Trump feels about the matter one way or the other. Another news headline here, this one having to do with Illinois, and it's from Marijuana Moment, a publication you're familiar with if you've listened to this show at all. The Illinois Senate passes a bill to stop police from using smell of marijuana to justify vehicle stops and searches. This was published yesterday as well. Ben Adlin posted this to marijuanamoment.net. I've linked it below as well. Won't read the whole thing, but I'll give you the gist. The Illinois Senate has passed a bill to clarify that police may not stop or detain drivers or search their vehicles based solely on the smell of cannabis. It would further remove a requirement that marijuana be transported in odor-proof containers. This measure is SB 42, and it's intended to address a state Supreme Court ruling late last year, which I covered on the show here. It said police are justified in searching a vehicle if they smell raw cannabis. Justices wrote that the smell means it's almost certain the unused product is not in a sealed, odor-proof container as required by law. Many, however, felt the ruling was incongruous with a separate Supreme Court decision just months earlier that found, quote, the smell of burnt cannabis was insufficient cause to search a vehicle. And as you may have also heard on this show, I covered a similar case in Arizona, as well as Michigan most recently, whose state Supreme Courts ruled similarly, that the smell of cannabis alone no longer justifies a stop and search of any vehicle, because again, cannabis is legal in those places, just like it is here in Illinois. So the whole point of this, that for so long cops were able to use the smell of cannabis solely as justification for stopping and searching anybody's vehicle, that's no longer justifiable because it's no longer evidence of a crime, because it's legal. So anyway, that's all I'll say about it. This does not mean that law has changed. It just means that bill has passed the Senate. Now it goes back to the House Rules Committee. They will need to pass it again before it heads to Governor Pritzker's desk for him to sign it into law. A little more context about that and more information in this article, which again I've linked below, but that's all I'm going to read. And the last article I'm going to share with you has to do with this debate that I kind of hinted at the beginning of the episode. I have seen on Reddit, on other social media platforms, that this debate on this topic is a hot one among connoisseurs like myself. Those in the stoner community have strong opinions, one way or the other, about methods of cannabis extraction. And there's an article here from MJ Biz Daily, which I've linked below. Margaret Jackson was the reporter who published it, also yesterday, April 14th. The question is, are solvents or solvent-less methods better? And the word better is really injecting a lot of subjectivity into this debate. So scrolling down again, I've linked this below if you want to follow along or check it out for yourself if you're driving or something at your leisure. Maybe you're exercising, maybe you're just smoking in the backyard, don't feel like looking at a screen. Either way, fine by me. But in the article, it starts, extraction consumers seeking high-quality cannabis products are becoming increasingly concerned about how their extracts are made. Some methods use solvents that critics say can leave behind residual chemicals, while proponents counter that those residuals appear in minuscule and harmless amounts. Other methods aim for maximum purity and forego solvents entirely. This is just the first paragraph of the article. They go on. Margaret Jackson says the global cannabis extracts market was valued at over $4 billion in 2023, according to Grandview Research, a San Francisco-based market research and consulting firm. It's projected to grow at a 20% compound annually to reach $15.5 billion by 2030. Now, that first paragraph ends with this line: the healthiest cannabis extraction methods preserve the plant's beneficial compounds while minimizing potential health risks. And then it moves on to another section here: extraction using solvents. While there are several extraction methods, they essentially can be put into two categories: solvent-based and solvent-less. Solvent-based extraction uses chemicals like alcohol, carbon dioxide, butane, or other chemicals to dissolve trichomes, yielding high-potency extracts. These extracts and the concentrates, if you're not familiar, these are like the hash, the rosin, the shatter, the resin. These kinds of products that are out there that you might use in a dab rig or something else, it is something different than the flower, and it comes in a few different forms, but that's what we're talking about here. The solvent, in these cases, is then removed through vacuum evaporation, leaving behind a concentrated resin of cannabinoids and terpenes. Lo Friesen, I believe the name is, founder and CEO of Seattle-based Halo, which is a cannabis extraction and products company, says you don't want residual hydrocarbons. Exposure to that is not safe. People have developed post-processing steps, a solvent removal process, to make sure they're meeting the state's requirements for how much residual solvent can be in the extract or finished product. Efficiency is another consideration. This is according to Michael Sassano, founder and CEO of Somai Pharmaceuticals, who I actually interviewed myself, and you'll hear my conversation with him coming in the next few weeks. But Sassano says hydrocarbon is one of the most efficient extraction methods for cannabinoids and the terpenes compared to other methods. You get higher yields, higher purity, and more abundance of terpenes. On to the next section, which is solventless extraction, where no chemicals are used. This is from the article. Instead, solventless extraction relies on physical processes like agitation, water, heat, and pressure to separate trichomes from cannabis, resulting in a purer extract. As the article notes, the process can be conducted manually or mechanically. Darwin Millard, tech director of St. Louis-based compliance service Cannabis Safety and Quality, said the method used to consume marijuana also determines which process should be used to extract THC. Topicals are the lowest risk cannabis product, followed by ingestion. Inhalation is the highest risk. Millard says here consumer health is a layered concept. Dabs are different from edibles. It might seem obvious to say that, and for those of us in this space who have used a lot of these things, we get it. But for the people who maybe have never tried any cannabis products, maybe it just got legal in their state and they're just trying to experiment for the first time with it, all of this is new information for them. So this is important to get out there for people to understand. Millard goes on, your body does a really great job of digesting things and filtering out things that may not be good for you. The dose makes the poison. Friesen and Millard diverge on the solvent versus solventless debate, however. Friesen is partial to the carbon dioxide extraction process, noting that the chemical compound kills yeast and mold. Millard, on the other hand, says solventless extraction is the healthiest, as long as the screens used for pressing are made from stainless steel rather than plastic. Nate Ferguson, co-founder and chief product officer at California-based Jetty Extracts, agrees that solventless is safer for consumption. One solventless method is a rosin press. I've seen those, they're pretty cool. It uses heat and pressure to create rosins. Ferguson said of that method, it's like cold-pressed olive oil. He also noted that it's important to use high-quality cannabis for extraction. So that's all I'm going to read of the article. There's still a little bit more there that I think is worth reading, so I've linked it below. Finish it for yourself at your leisure. But I want to know, what is your opinion about this? Solvent-based or solventless extraction methods? I myself am still kind of a novice in terms of concentrates. I've been trying a lot more since I started this show, especially edibles that are infused with some of these extraction methods. Gummies, beverages. Of course, there's also vape carts and topicals too. And then there's the smokables, like we're talking about, the hash, the rosins, the resins, the shatter, the butter. These things are all put into dab rigs and then heated up, and then people inhale them that way as well. But what do you think? What, for your money, is the safer method of extraction? What products do you prefer? If you look at the show description notes for this episode, there is a line at the top that says Text Cannabis Man with a line underneath. You can click that at any time and send me a message. I want to know what you feel about this debate, because I've seen people have some heated opinions about this across social media. So tell me what you think. Oh, and if you're looking to get a gift maybe for somebody, for that stoner in your life this 420, maybe you're looking to gift it for your significant other, friend, family member, maybe yourself. Whoever it is that you might be considering buying a gift for this holiday weekend, how do you know which cannabis products are the best given how many are out there? Well, my friends at Grasslands agency have put together a 420 gift guide. I've linked it below. It's in the description notes of this episode. Click on the underlined Grasslands gift guide text, and it'll take you to another page. You can see these products. But they've got a ton here to work from. 4 pages worth of various cannabis products that have all been vetted, and they recommend highly. What are you in the mood for? Gummies? Do you want gummies to party? Maybe some gummies to help you sleep? They've got it all. Artisan gummies made from Flower Union. They've got those gummies too. How about some beverages? Fable Libation to quench your thirst and get a little buzz going. They've got that. How about a container to keep your cannabis products fresh or your seeds secure? They've got those too. How about concentrates or bubble joint pinners or jewelry or clothing or vapes? They've got it all. So if you're in the mood to get a gift this 420 holiday, check out the Grasslands gift guide below and pick one for yourself. This is a holiday that I think you can make happen anytime, and I encourage it. For today, I want to talk to you specifically about Fable Libations. Love the name when I saw it, and I think their imagery is pretty good. They've got some sort of plant, sort of like an olive wreath on the front of their cans. The color scheme is nice. The specific drink that I'm offering, and their libations come in a multi-pack. I got a 6-pack with different flavors here. The one that I'm going to be trying today is the Fable Best Zest. Citrus, pepper, and spice. Non-alcoholic infused botanical cocktails. As they note at the bottom of the can, 5 milligrams of hemp-derived THC along with 3 milligrams of CBD. If you turn the can over to the back, it says masterfully crafted and unfiltered, best served chilled, drink intentionally, and refrigerate after opening. All very helpful things to keep in mind. But I haven't been able to try this yet. I was saving it for this recording because I wanted to share it with you. So if you've got any beverage by you or an edible or something to light up, now's the time. Cheers. And a happy, healthy 420 to you. That was kind of difficult. More than it should have been. Cheers. Oh, wow. Wow. That is citrusy. Oh, my. Gosh. It's like if you bite into a lemon or something, I mean, it's like your eyes are just closing and it's like your saliva glands are just working overtime. This is citrusy. There is a little bit of pepper on the back end, but it is not extreme. You know, it's not like when you sprinkle a bunch of black pepper onto whatever your dinner is and you're sneezing and that kind of a thing. Or, you know, where the spice, like pumpkin spice, for instance, where it kind of tickles the back of your throat. I'm not getting that here. The citrus is what pops the most for me of this flavor profile. It is bubbly, but it's relatively smooth. It's not as carbonated as some of the other cannabis drinks I've tried out there. It's got a little bit of like a carbonated lemonade kind of feel. But you know, it's more tangerine or orangish than lemonade. It's a different kind of citrus. I was talking about those Wink-made lemonades, their new offerings there. This is different. This is very different than those. I'm guessing that they used either an orange or a tangerine to get their citrus because it kind of has that flavor to it. But this is very good. Cold out of the fridge. It's how I stored it. And so it is definitely, it's got some condensation on the can here in the booth. Very, very nice. I talk a lot about beverages on the show. I'm a big fan of this beverage space because I think that there's so much potential. It's so approachable. And that's the main thing, just like I talk about with KymB, this education effort that people are doing here. Trying to make cannabis more normalized, you have to make it approachable too. And we were just talking about the solvent versus solventless extraction methods. Well, all of that is way over the head of somebody who's never tried cannabis in the first place. You know what's a nice, easy, and approachable first step for a can of virgin? For somebody who's never tried any weed whatsoever? A beverage. That's, I think, why even back in like the 80s and 90s, more people were comfortable taking a brownie or a cookie from a neighbor than maybe lighting up a joint and inhaling that way. Edibles and beverages are a lot more approachable. They're a lot friendlier for first-timers. There's a reason why people are comfortable with those in a way that maybe they're a little hesitant when it comes to smoking something. But all of that is sort of unrelated to this Fable Libations drink. I find this to be a thirst quencher. I can already feel the calming effects in my mind, even though it might not sound like that as I'm ranting into this mic like I typically do. But I do actually feel a little bit calmer. The edge has kind of been taken off. I don't feel like I want to go to the couch and just be glued to that for the day, but I never really do. I go to cannabis for, a lot of different reasons, but in a social capacity, it's mainly just to take the edge off and feel a little bit more just off the cuff and feel a little more comfortable in my own skin, feeling a little more comfortable talking to strangers or people that I don't know or whatever. That is a big part of what I love about cannabis, and I feel that pretty instantaneously by drinking this Fable Libations drink, which is the best Zest citrusy flavor. You can find this along with a whole host of other potential gifts at the Grasslands 420 gift guide, which, as I mentioned, is linked below. And I've got some other products that I'm going to tell you about on the other side of my interview this week with Kim Burns of TribeTokes, which starts right now. My guest today is somebody that has been in the cannabis space for many years. Like myself, she was in it well before it was legalized and has a lot of experience from back in those dark days, along with right now today where it's come into the daylight of legality. She has been involved in the selling of cannabis as well as consuming of it for some time, and she's a big-time passionate advocate and thought leader at the forefront of this green frontier movement that I always talk about. And she's also the co-founder and CMO of TribeTokes, which is a clean cannabis brand renowned for integrity and transparency. And she has seen specifically how seniors are more increasingly embracing cannabis. I've talked about it a little on the show, but they are one of the fastest growing age groups, demographics, I suppose, who are in this new legal cannabis space, and they're experimenting with it to deal with a lot of the quality of life issues that I talk about a lot on this show, getting to sleep, chronic pain, and dealing with any kinds of diseases as well. So there's a lot of things that make sense for as to why seniors are jumping into this with both feet. And so here to talk about this is Kimberly Burns, KymB, CMO and co-founder of TribeTokes. Welcome, Kim. Thanks for jumping on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
I mentioned you've been in cannabis for a while. We both kind of talked before the recording about the space before legalization and what that was like. Tell us about your journey into cannabis.
Yeah, so like many of us in the industry, I, started, smoking weed when I was a teenager, and it was, super illegal, super taboo, but like low down, everybody was kind of doing it.
Right.
So I started smoking at 14 and was like kind of, neutral about it. Wasn't like running to smoke all of the time, but like if it was there, I was like, okay, cool. But when right before I turned 16, my dad was putting away my laundry. Single dad, I'm the oldest of 5 kids. My mom had passed away.
Okay.
And my dad was just doing me the favor of putting away, my clothes, and found a bag of weed in my drawer. And when I came into the house, he was like, we need to talk, and
Yep.
I kind of knew from that. I was like, well, there's nothing else it could possibly be.
Right.
And we were in my bedroom, and my dad's like, I was putting your clothes away, and I found a bag of weed. What the hell are you doing with it? And I was like, listen, Dad, I'm smoking weed a little bit here and there, and that's just what it is. And my dad looked me square in the eye, and he said, I'm going to take this much, and I'm going to give you a $10 bill, and we're never going to speak of this again. And I was like, oh my God, I can make money selling weed. And that was it.
That's amazing.
I became the one who was like getting the weed, divvying it out between friends, and ending up ahead.
Yep.
And then I used to work at this like disgusting, dingy motel, cleaning motel rooms as my after school job. And one of the guys was like, you always smell like weed. You got weed? I'm like, I got weed. And he started buying from me. And then people coming to the motel would want to buy, and he would send them to me. And that was it. I just knew. Fast forward years later, my dad took ill. And I had already been growing my own stash for years and years and years, like 10 years. And my dad was sick, and I was like, I'm going to grow weed for my dad, and I'm going to make like cookies and brownies and give them to him. My dad was totally obviously down with weed, but he was scared of it.
Yeah.
And he was scared because he didn't want to like get in trouble. And I think my dad would have lived a lot longer and a lot more of a vibrant life if he wasn't so scared of using cannabis. He did it, but it was just like a little side thing that he'd do once in a while. My mother also used it. My dad got it for her when she had cancer. But my dad had, severe, he had Kaskov's disease, which is like the frontal lobe, like kind of what Wendy Williams has. And it was like a dementia. And so he was starting to shut down, and he was on so many medications, and it was clear he was in pain. And I was like, I'm going to make these brownies, and I'm just going to give them to him and see what happens. And I started giving him the brownies, and it was just like a better way for him, a quality of end life. And I just really saw that. And I was like taking them myself and having my quality of life while I'm watching my father pass away. And I was like, okay, this is medicine. All the stuff that I'm like hearing out there about cannabis is medicine. This was like in like 2009 through my dad passed away in 2013. And I just realized there was way more to this than just getting high. And that was it. I was like, I'm not going to sit back and not use my voice anymore. I'm going to use my voice and advocate for cannabis in every which way that I can. And so starting in 2013, I became a little bit more vocal, which was scary because in New York, it was still highly illegal. People were going to jail in droves.
Sure.
You know, the helicopters coming over the house looking, you know, with the heat centers trying to find people, you know, growing their own stash and catching them. And it was quite scary. But in 2015 in New York, Women Grow came about, and I found my people, my tribe. A few years later, I met my business partner, Deja Lee, who already started TribeTokes and brought me on as a co-founder. And we really that was it. We knew that we needed to offer we started with CBD, you know, because even back in 2017, 18, cannabis was still very illegal, and people CBD was kind of illegal.
Yeah.
But we saw the need for it. We knew that where the market was going. We knew where the industry was going, and we wanted to offer clean products for people that were conscious consumers that cared about their health and cared about the wellness of themselves and cared about using, you know, plant-based, holistic, you know, modalities to help with all of the angst of life, right? Like you said before, sleep and diseases and mental wellness. And so we started out just, you know, with one product, a vape battery, and it grew to vape carts. Then it grew to some topicals. We had a beauty line at one point, which was where the pain cream that we formulated kind of stemmed from. And now we have a full line of products that are clean with no artificial colors, flavors, fillers, or additives ever. And also, you know, from a very trusted source, our company manifesto is only sell products you would give your own mother. And Deja's mom is a cancer survivor, and she happily uses our products, and it feels really, really good inside knowing that we're giving her things that are not going to make her sick.
That's so fantastic. There's a lot that you said there, Kym, sharing your story that I know will resonate with people. And I just want to start by saying I'm just sorry to hear about what your parents went through and what you went through, sort of being there at the end of life in that way. But I want to congratulate you too by being open to and willing to kind of make those brownies for your dad, because I know that there are so many people who, you know, you talked about how he was fearful of using them more openly, embracing them a little bit more. And I know that there are so many people who didn't have somebody like you in their corner who might have been in a situation like his, and they didn't have any cannabis and probably believed like he did and didn't have an advocate kind of giving it to him. So good on you for helping him improve that quality of life in a moment when it was really necessary for him. And then moving on to TribeTokes and just kind of talking about you finding your voice and that personal experience for you, obviously I'm sure fuels you to this day, and you're still, I talk about it on the show all the time. We're still fighting this stigma. I mean, you and I we know what it was like back before the turn of the century, which is an expression that I hate saying because of how old it makes me feel, but I keep saying it because it's just true. But before then, it was like, we remember the DARE education. You remember those cops coming into your public school classroom and showing you the video of scrambled eggs and talking about like, okay, like this is just what happens. And then to try it for yourself and have that aha light bulb moment, the realization that you're like, well, wait a minute, this isn't squaring. Like what they're telling me about this plant and what I'm experiencing for myself. And then in your case, when you see your dad as well at that same time, you notice the quality of life for both of you improving. That doesn't square with the message that was coming from authority figures, from the government and all of that. And we're still fighting against that brainwashing and that stigma that rolled down from back then to this day. And so the education part of it, the effort of making clean products like you're talking about, sourcing stuff that is not going to make people feel ideally in any way negative. And we know that lots of producers in the cannabis space do things their way, and some of it isn't as mindful as what you guys are doing. And so you mentioned a couple of products in there that TribeTokes offers. And you talked about skincare. You talked about, clean sourcing stuff. Let me ask you, what are the most popular products you guys have? And do you sell them in just New York, or can people get them elsewhere?
Yeah, so we started out as a CBD brand online. And so we are available in all 50 states and the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico.
Nice.
To be honest, the most popular product is our vapes. Back in 2018, this little thing called VapeGate happened, where people were getting bootleg carts spiked with different fillers and getting, popcorn lung and, a slew of other things.
Oof.
And it kind of, hurt our business, but we persevered because people trusted us. And so during that time, we developed our skincare line, which we've recently discontinued. We were selling so many other things, we had to kind of pick and choose, but we did keep our pain cream topical.
Nice.
We sell mostly vapes, and that's because people like to smoke, and smoking is disgusting. I'm not saying smoking weed, but smoking cigarettes. And a lot of people like to have this oral fixation. So we came up with a formula that had no artificial flavors, colors, fillers, just terpenes and cannabis oil, and that's it.
Beautiful.
And so that's just at the top of our line. But we also realized that not everybody wants to put stuff in their lungs.
Yeah.
And so we went ahead and developed some gummies. And the reason why I love, and I'm so obsessed with our gummy lines, we have, several, probably, I think we have like 7 or 8 different gummy SKUs, with different cannabinoids that are amazing. But again, going back to, there's no artificial colors, flavors, fillers, or trash in there. You can pronounce all of the ingredients, right? And I know that's like a new thing that people are really sensitive about.
Yeah.
But since we've been making gummies, we have taken a stance against artificial colors and flavors. Personally, myself, I am a little bit of a biohacker and super health conscious. I was a Pilates instructor. I'm a certified Pilates instructor for 25 years by trade.
Wow.
So wellness is really important. And so we feel really good about our gummy line. But then we also, of course, have our pain relief cream. So many of our older customers were just not interested in digesting anything or actually feeling the effects of cannabis. Honestly, we've changed a lot of minds, but
that's awesome.
But we wanted, honestly, I'm a workout freak. So is my business partner and her husband. We're a family-owned business. We wanted a pain relief cream, a muscle cream that did the job and did it right. We formulated something all natural with amazing ingredients, and we had no clue that it was going to take off hot. We had no idea that it was going to become one of our most popular items, and that people from all walks of life, from every age group, wanted this cream. And from everything from neuropathies to muscle spasms, people are finding relief in it. And it's been just kind of this surprise product SKU that has been really great for people who are just dipping their toe into all of the different cannabinoids. And I can tell you, though, that's so interesting is that we have a lot of older customers.
Yeah.
And we love them. I love them specifically. It's, coming from having taken care of my dad, I want to help the older, people who are, 55 and older, find ways holistically to mitigate some of the shit that we have to deal with in life. And that's, starting with just some of these neuropathies and muscle pains and backaches and things like that.
Yeah.
And then, boom, they start to see it work, and they were like, oh, I want some gummies. I want some vapes. We have amazing tinctures.
Yes.
All different tinctures. And I think that the older population is really mindful about what they're putting in their lungs.
Sure.
So our vapes are great for them because they're trusted, lab tested. The reviews are like enormously amazing, but they also have other things that they can pick. So it's like a protocol. You can have your pain cream. You can have vapes when you're on the go, tincture when you're at home, gummies at night before you go to bed. And we have something for everybody. And I'm really proud of our team for, sticking with it and saying, we're not putting any trash. We're not cutting any corners, and we're out there for the people.
I love that. You said another, a lot of stuff in there that I want to kind of break into, because there's so much of the approach that you're taking that I think will resonate with people, especially with seniors. I think, of course, they're conscious because it's like, just like with a lot of other things, they have to be more conservative because in general, just like with money, it's like you don't have as much time as a senior to undo some potential damage that you may incur. And that goes for health too. When you're younger, it's kind of like, hey, I'm just going to try this thing because I know that most of the time, whatever happens on the other side of it, I'll be able to rehab and kind of get back to square one. But that's not the case with seniors. You can kind of one slip, one fall, a bad financial decision, and it's kind of like, yeah, you're ruined and I really can't get past this now. So that conservatism, that mindfulness you're talking about, I think is true kind of across the board, regardless of how open somebody is to experiences. It's just the way that life goes. So I think that basket of options you talked about, where the gatekeeping, or rather I think like the gateway that they pass through with the topical cream, and they find that, hey, I'm not ingesting anything. This thing isn't going to get me stoned and like glued to my couch, but it does help me fight some pain I've been feeling with, whether it's the joint or the muscle spasms you talked about, whatever aches or pains they're dealing with, which seniors deal with a lot. That can meet them where they are. And then that's the thing where it's like, oh, this thing isn't so problematic. This isn't what I am. This is a cannabis thing, and it's not anything like I pictured. And so that opens them up to the things like you talked about, like vapes, like gummies, like some of these other things that they're like, well, hey, if this topical was so good, let me try and add this into my life. And, I talk about socially beverages a lot. I know that that's a space that's really big because socially it's just alcohol is so baked into our interactions that you go to a party and you're not drinking. Like right now, you and I are recording this, Kim, January 30th, and I'm doing a dry January with no alcohol, no cannabis, no caffeine, no added sugars. Like it's been a hellish month. I've had a headache for like a week and a half, but because I just don't have cannabis to turn to. But I've got so many plans this weekend, but like when I go to parties over this or any social events during this month, and you have to explain to people like, well, thankfully dry January is popular enough now where you can say it and they kind of just like nod and then it's done. But if it's not a dry January and you say I'm not drinking right now, or I'm trying to lose weight, I just don't feel like it, I'm fighting sickness, any of these good reasons why someone might not want to consume alcohol, and you still get like this pushback. You still get a little bit of follow-up questions. Oh, one drink's not going to hurt. It all depends on who you're with, but in general, it just kind of shows how baked into our interactions alcohol is. So to have a great alternative like cannabis, that's part of why I always bring up the beverage space. But these gummies, the vapes you're talking about, this is really huge. And talking about serving seniors in particular, we brought up some of the pain and some of the quality of life issues that they're dealing with. But why do you think that they're like one of the fastest growing demographics who's embracing cannabis now?
Well, we're in sick care right now. Healthcare is done. We're in sick care. And I think there are anybody who's like, I'm almost 50. I'm going to turn 47 this year. So
wow.
I think anybody who's starting to, get close to 50 and over, you realize like, there are so many people, centenarians, like people are living to 100 and beyond. We're living longer and we want to preserve.
Yeah.
And alcohol is poisoning us. It's killing us. And, recently in the past, like several months, they've come out and said there is no safe amount of alcohol.
Right.
And so I think more and more people are looking for alternative ways to let loose. Also looking to preserve themselves, because you could be turning 50 and still that could just be the first half of your life. So there's so much more to come. And it's really great being older because you're so much wiser and you make different decisions and you seeing life from a different perspective. So I think that's really important. And also because I think that the side effects, I'm all here for modern medicine when needed. But I also think that we've forgotten the ancient healing that before there was pharmaceuticals, we were using cannabis. We were using medicinal plants, medicinal mushrooms, and all of the things. And I think that, as people get wiser, they are listening and hearing all of this, and something is turning on, and there's wanting to explore more holistic modalities that have less side effects, permanent side effects, like, oh, I'm having a lot of stress, here's a pill. Well, instead of that, here's some CBD and ashwagandha. Go have a field day, try some kava,
Yeah.
enjoy some different, plant-based, modalities that can really ease some of the angst that you have inside. Also, we're in a sleep epidemic, a sleeplessness epidemic where people are having we're overstimulated. We're just running on fight or flight all the time, and the rest and digest is like on the back burner. Our bodies are not meant to be running from lions all day, and that is what we're doing.
Yeah.
And it's affecting our sleep. And so more than ever, I think people want safe ways to help them sleep. And we have developed some sleep gummies that we have, 2 different types of cannabinoid sleep gummies that really, help people fall asleep without those terrible side effects, waking up groggy and things like that. So, I think that there's a whole movement into finding ways to, get through your day better without having to have a pill for that or a pill for this, because then it ends up like my poor dad, who is on, over a dozen medications, over medicated, drinking,
Yep.
smoking cigarettes. And basically at 63, my dad lost his life because the doctors were like, oh, you're depressed, we're going to give you this pill. You have heart disease, we're going to give you this pill. They're not talking about nutrition. They're not talking about getting proper sunlight. They're not talking about alternative medicine because they're not allowed to.
Right.
This is a giant secret within the medical field that you're not allowed to offer people these things. And especially back in 2013 when my dad passed away, there was a hush to it. So
Yep.
I think we're all just waking up and seeing that there's so much more out there, and that cannabinoids are, something that our body has receptors for. In the information highway where we're, it's easy to get data, like hey Siri, like you can
Right.
get data instantly. And I think people are looking at the data and asking questions, and seniors specifically who are, the ones who are using an astronomical amount of pharmaceuticals are saying no. Actually, and you know what? I think a lot of people's kids are like, no, you need to try this. So many times we get calls and emails of people's kids saying, listen, I want to get this for my mom.
Yeah.
I want to get this for my dad. I want it. Even my grandma. I've had people say my great grandmother wants to try CBD. And we are so honored to be a trusted source. I thank people on a regular. Thank you so much for trusting us with your wellness, because we take that as an honor and a privilege.
Yeah, and it seems like you really do. I mean, I can tell just talking with you here that you take this responsibility seriously, and sharing your story as you did earlier, I can totally see why. And I think you're absolutely right about that. And that's something I take pride in as well. It was one of the things I started the show for, is that my mom and her sisters and my grandma and these people I could see could benefit from cannabis in certain quality of life ways, but they never would have given it a shot. And so conversations like this one, Kym, where I'm having interviews with experts in the field, trying different products, and being able to actually suggest to them something to address the need that they have, and then have them trust me with it. It's just one of the most rewarding things that I've ever been a part of. I got my grandma last year some CBN capsules, and she actually was able to try them and had a great time, and sleeping, and was just and my mom as well, those moments live in my brain as just like, this is why I started this. And there's really nothing better than doing that. And as we're aging, you talk about the pharmaceutical side of it and this whole thing that we've got going on in Western medicine, that the secret you're talking about, which is out now, which is to say that these industries, these giant conglomerates have us all in this hamster wheel. Big food, right? The fast food industry that most of us are eating. You don't realize unless you look at nutrition labels what kind of added sugars are in there. Salts, fats, these things that when you're constantly putting them in, they're making you sick. Then you go and see your doctor and big healthcare is like, well, I'm going to focus on this particular issue, and now I'm going to hand you off to Big Pharma for a pill for that issue. And then that pill has a side effect, and you go back to your doctor, and they say, well, guess what? Here's another one in your Pez dispenser, and you can have this pill to deal with that sort of thing. And it's just now all of a sudden, you are a senior, you're taking, 100 pills a month, all to address these different things. And as you kind of alluded to before as well, the well-known natural remedies for a lot of these things are just not profitable. When you tell people drink more water, get 8 hours of sleep, get sunlight, exercise, and try and eat a healthier diet, that stuff doesn't make those big industries money. They have their profit models, and it's what I've talked about a lot on the show as to part of why the prohibitionists and cannabis is still kind of at the status quo that it is. And I just think it's really important, especially as we do age, to keep these things in mind and to know how major cannabis can be as a big tool in that toolbox to kind of help you. And these different cannabinoids you talked about, I mean, it's crazy that we have a system in our body to receive that. There's no such system for alcohol or caffeine or anything. Those just activate your brain receptors. But there is an actual system for cannabinoids. And it's kind of like, well, how could that have been there if we hadn't been using it for long enough to evolve with that? It's just crazy, and the resistance and all of that. And let me just say for the listener, Kym, I never would have guessed 47. I would have thought you're my age of 37. So you're obviously doing something right. And I think the exercising you talk about, the drinking water, the sleeping, all that's really important. But something else you said earlier I want to get back to. You mentioned how women first cannabis was coming up in New York. You kind of talked about you and your co-founder who are women in this space. And not only are you both exercise fanatics, but you're also very passionate about cannabis. And women are another large demographic. I keep reading articles about how they are consuming more cannabis across age groups than men typically are. So I'm curious to get your take on that. What is it about cannabis that fits so well for women?
Well, I think, it's really interesting. A woman goes through a hormonal cycle, right? So every day is different. A man, you go through a 24-hour cycle, so your days are the same. And so I think, the endocannabinoid system really helps balance the hormonal changes that women go through every single day. And I think we just really sync up to it, and there's cannabinoids in our breast milk. And so there's something to be said about, the cycle a woman goes through and the way that our bodies are made and how the different cannabinoids really offer, a way to kind of get to homeostasis or at least creep real close to it, And so I think, also women are purchasing cannabis for their households, right? They're purchasing it more because they're tend to be, there's a very strong, specifically in the United States, where women, the matriarchs, are really, running the households. And so I believe that women are really in sync with plant medicine and have been healers for many moons. And it's a resonation. We resonate with the plant medicine. But also, I want to remind you that people in general, cannabis is now surpassing alcohol consumption.
Yeah.
And so it's not just seniors. It's not just, people that, women, and it's not just, like people who are stoners.
Right.
Now it's everyone knowing that alcohol on a regular basis is not going to help get you ahead in life.
Right.
But cannabis comes with anti-inflammatory properties and doesn't give you a hangover in the morning. And so I feel like in general, it's just if over 21, each demographic over 21 is really interested in the benefits and effects of cannabis and its subsidiaries. I also think that mushrooms, medicinal mushrooms and magic mushrooms, are something of interest because, again, these are naturally occurring substances, and alcohol is more of a man-made substance, and it's just giving people diseases. And when you're pairing it up with pharmaceuticals and fast food and pollution and stress, it's causing disease in every which way. And cannabis is not.
Yeah.
Mushrooms are not. You're not hearing about people overdosing on cannabis. You're not hearing about people overdosing on mushrooms. You're not hearing about, people getting in drunk driving cannabis. You're not seeing these things.
Right.
And I think we're finally debunking it on every single level. And women, we're used to healing. That's just been our role for so long that we're like, yes, we're here to, lead the way in the healing. And cannabis and mushrooms and hemp and all of the different properties like that, they're so amazing. And I think we gravitate towards that in this kind of like, we're having a purge right now. Whatever your political views are, there's this new movement, and like RFK is really, talking about it. Again, this is not political. This is just the facts.
Yeah.
About removing the substances in our food and finding a homeopathic and holistic lifestyle to help heal obesity and diabetes and all of the things. You're not becoming a diabetic from using cannabis.
Right. Yeah.
You're becoming a diabetic from drinking alcohol and eating refined sugars and ultra processed foods. And I think people are starting to get woke on it and say it's time.
I agree with a lot of what you said, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Believe me, I have plenty of people on the show that if you even get a whiff of political talk in a conversation, they just hard left turn to like something else, back to the product or whatever. So, I mean, I appreciate you there, and I do agree with you in that sense where it's not so much about the person themselves, but it's about a movement altogether to re-examine these things that we just take for granted. A lot of us, we all juggle a lot of balls in our lives. Everyone's got plates spinning. So not everybody's thinking all the time about like, well, let me look at every single nutrition label that I put into my body, or this is on a store shelf. It can't be that bad for me. I think there's a little bit of, engineered simplicity there, and people don't think twice about it. But we're in this stage now where people are starting to think twice about it because they realize that with America the way that it's been, capitalism, not that capitalism itself is like negative, but when it's hyper, when it's hyper capitalistic like we are here, the companies have a little bit more sway, and they put things on shelves, and it requires somebody like a reporter, like, somebody doing some digging to then expose what the problems are rather than examining it fully and never having it hit store shelves. It's kind of flipped from the way that it really should be. So I do think people are taking more of that responsibility onto themselves. And this is why, cannabis fits so well into this more natural and holistic existence people might be chasing. But the mushrooms you're talking about too, I mentioned I'm doing this dry month and I'm abstaining from all these things. One of my big helpful lifelines has been functional mushrooms and things like kava and kanna and these other plant roots out of like South Africa, South America. Thankfully,
Love them all.
Yeah, thankfully I've had some great people on the show who send me these things, and it's like, well, I never tried them. I never would have, but I interview them. They explain that this isn't psychedelic. Maybe it's like adjacent, but they're more functional. But this is how they're going to kind of help your day. And there's things that help me get to sleep at night. There's social, aphrodisiacs and stuff. There's perform elixirs. There's all these things with these natural plant-based, roots and all of that you're talking about that are available for people. And so just kind of relying on the old school prescriptions of, hey, let me smoke another pack of cigarettes, let me grab another bottle of alcohol and stuff. It's realizing all these alternatives that are more natural and better for you that are out there. And in that group, I include the products you're talking about at TribeTokes. And I want to ask for people who want to get the stuff you guys offer, these great vapes, we're talking about the gummies and topicals, where can they go to find them?
Well, we are online at TribeTokes.com, and we have an amazing woman-owned and family-owned and operated company. We make everything right on our home base. So we produce everything and then pack it and ship it with love right out to your doorstep. And we do things a little bit different, where we offer customer service, where people can talk to a real person, which is me, and ask me questions. It's a full-time job, but I'm here to do it, where people ask me questions and we stand behind all of our products. So the best way to get us is TribeTokes.com. But just to put it out there, we are I think we're in over 200 retailers nationwide.
Wow.
The inventory varies state by state.
Sure.
So the best way to be able to peruse our full menu is to jump on our website, but you can definitely find us in CBD shops, holistic wellness stores, as well as like chiropractic offices. And you'll have to ask if it's not available in your local store, ask for it, because we are happy to be also in the stores where people can go touch it. I know that there's still people out there who like to shop in real life. So, but to get our full menu, check us out at TribeTokes.com. Sign up for our emails. Not only are they super informative, but they are hysterical. We make really funny emails. We don't send too many. My business partner, Deja, our CEO, takes great pride and joy in making sure that our emails are really fun, edgy, and super informative.
I love that. That sounds great. I'm going to sign up myself. TribeTokes.com. Listener, do you have a store locator on the website, Kym? We
do have a store locator, and just make sure you call the store in case they don't carry some of the products that you're looking for.
Gotcha. Well, I could certainly talk with you about this all day. And like I said, I appreciate you taking the time. One final question I just want to ask, because we were talking about other substances, and you're in New York, products in other states, but you guys are obviously operating there. And I'm just curious, this hemp battle that's kind of happening across different states now. The California governor looking into a hemp ban. Here in Illinois, our governor and the Chicago mayor are at odds over what's to be done about these hemp products. And even both houses of Congress last year were talking about banning or regulating. They advanced some kind of legislation to look into this, which didn't end up going anywhere. But I want to get your take on it. As somebody who is a cannabis business operator, one of the things I talk about on the show a lot is sort of just making an even playing field in terms of what loopholes people have to jump through. Cannabis right now, there's a lot more. Hemp is not as heavily regulated. But I want to get your take on it, especially in the New York market. What's your opinion about these hemp products?
I think as long as you're getting them from a trusted source, everybody deserves to have access to some type of cannabinoids. And when we close that door, we're giving all of our money to big pharma and to our very broken healthcare system. So I think it's important that everybody use their voices to write to their local political figures and say, you're banning the things that are making us well and legalizing the things that are making us sick, and you need to stop it. TribeTokes stance is, until they tell us to stop, we won't. And we're here for the people, and we will continue to operate. We did get some licenses in other states, and we will be expanding to the dispensaries in New York, Maryland, and a few other states coming online. So we're excited to do that. But you know what? We started with CBD, and we're going to continue to offer that to customers in full faith that this is helping people. And our government loves to take away the things that are making us better and push the things that are not. And that's because the money comes from big pharma. All of the money comes from big pharma, big alcohol, and big tobacco. So we have to continue to fight the power and continue to advocate for our own personal wellness, our family's wellness, and the wellness of our community and for our entire human race.
It's a message I'm certainly behind as well, and I'm sure that anyone listening to this is likely behind. And so, listener, if you want to contribute to that effort, as we said, head to TribeTokes.com, find out some of these great products that Kym was just talking about, and sign up for that email newsletter, which sounds like a very informative and entertaining time. Kimberly Burns, CMO and co-founder of TribeTokes, thank you so much for stopping by today and sharing your perspective.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be on The Cannabis Man.
And there you have it, listener. I want to thank one more time my guest, Kym Burns of TribeTokes, who I'm really grateful to her for sharing her story. Her origin story, I think, like I said, it very much resonates with a lot of people I've talked with, not just on this podcast, but over the course of my life as a stoner and other stoners in the space that I've spoken with. The journey that we all go on, it's a little bit like the hero's journey. If you have read Joseph Campbell or you're familiar with that Hero of a Thousand Faces or any of that, no, not a big deal. I will just move through the lecture here as quickly as I can. The hero's journey has some archetypal moments. You think about any of the big epic fantasy sagas that have come out in the last 100 years or so, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Harry Potter, all of these different sort of stories, those heroes, there are archetypal characters, like a mentor, like an old mentor, like an arch villain, an antagonist of some kind, like the best friend who's like maybe a hapless fool, but always there when you need them, the love interest. And then moments through the journey, like the end of Act 1, there's the inciting incident where something happens that takes the hero away from their home and onto this journey where they're going to learn a lot of things and become something different than they are right now before they head to their final battle and all that stuff. I bring this up not just because I'm a little stoned after drinking that Fable Libations, but I also bring it up because I find that there are some interesting parallels with the stoner's journey. Most people I've talked with who are in this space have hit some of those archetypal steps along the way. Kym and I discussed one of those steps during the interview, which was the discovery of cannabis itself, the initiation into the space, that light bulb moment that goes off when you say, okay, I was willing to try this, my friends exposed me to this, and now here I am ingesting it, and my mind is realizing that I feel like this is inherently good. The way my body feels right now, the way my mind feels, the thoughts that I'm having, I recognize this as a good thing. And yet, everything I've ever been told about this, from authority figures, in schools, in classrooms, by my parents, whatever, all preached that this was inherently bad, maybe evil, the devil's lettuce. So that moment of self-discovery, when you recognize as the stoner, like, hey, that doesn't square their messaging to me and my own experience with this plant, those two things don't add up. Somebody is incorrect here. Somebody was misinformed. And seeing as you're the one doing the experimentation, I think the conclusion that most of us stoners come to is, well, it's not me because I'm ingesting this and I know how I feel. So it's a subjective sort of experimentation, but that's the way that it goes. It goes that way with a lot of substances that we ingest throughout our lives. But either way, I appreciate Kym for sharing her own stoner's journey and just kind of talking a little about the product philosophy that comes from TribeTokes. We were talking earlier about the debate on extraction methods, solventless versus solvent-based. One of the great products that TribeTokes offers, and it's one I'm going to tell you about right now, is their vape carts. Vape battery as well as the cart itself. They were kind enough to send me one of their TribeTokes vaporizers, and then you screw in these carts, and the one I got here is THCA live resin full spectrum vape cartridge, and the flavor is Tropicana cookies. Live resin Tropicana cookies. I really like that on their label here, they show you where it was tested, SC Labs, and they give you various test results. Pesticides, pass. Heavy metals, pass. It gives you the batch number, the net weight, and the percentages of all the cannabinoids in there. 65.5% THCA, 16.7% CBDA, 1.2% CBCA, and 0.8% other. Big fan of other. No, I don't know what it is, but I am a big fan of this Tropicana Cookies cart. Something I've mentioned on the show before is that I haven't been a big vaporizer in the past. I'm warming to it now as I'm trying more of these products. But a lot of the vape carts that I end up trying make me sneeze. I don't know what that is. I'm trying to get somebody on the show to talk about this. I don't know if that's something that you've experienced as well, but sometimes, just depending on what the product is, it doesn't really happen when I vaporize dry flower, but when I'm using these concentrates and I vaporize them and I inhale them that way, a lot of products have the side effect of just making me sneezy. So that's probably why I kind of just stay with flower as my preferred, consumption method. But I bring that up right now because that did not happen with this TribeTokes Tropicana Cookies cart. I was so thrilled with the taste of this. Very clean, very simple, and the cart lasted me a long time. I mean, I probably was able to use it for 3 or 4 weeks. The vape battery as well that Kim mentioned. I'm sharing a picture of both of these items, the vape cart as well as the battery that you use to smoke it. These are both fantastically made. I can just tell, you can feel it, you feel the weight of it. The mechanical functioning of the vape battery is really, really cool. It makes me think of some modern car key fobs, where it's just like this blank fob that you pull out of your pocket and then you press a button and the key flicks out. That's what that sound just was. There's a little button on the side of this cart here, or rather the vape battery, and it rotates this arm of the battery. So once you've screwed the cart in, you can rotate it downward to kind of protect it in this little gap so that, it's not running around like just another pen in your pocket. I know if you're like me at all and you've tried to go through a day with a vape cart on a pen in your pocket, it's very easy for those things to break, even just crack, which can totally ruin the rest of that cart experience. This is basically a little protective measure from TribeTokes, which also has the function of being really fun and kind of addictive to do. I find myself, retucking this in and whipping the cart out over and over again because it's just fun to kind of feel it swing the weight around. And then, the cart is there ready for you to hit as well. Another feature that's really nice about this battery is that you can customize your voltage. There is a range in here from 3.2 to 4.2 volts. And the voltage determines what your experience is when you inhale from the vape cart. There's 2 little buttons on here on this battery. One of them you hold when it's on to inhale the vape. The other one is to set the voltage. Now, I experimented with this for a while. When I first inhaled, it was on the 4.2, and that created quite a cloud, let me tell you. But it also was a little bit hot. It felt a little bit too strong of a flavor for me. I just knew it wasn't where I wanted to settle. But then when I went all the way back down to 3.2, it just wasn't enough, wasn't nearly enough. I settled on the 3.7 volts. That's where I left this for the majority of the time I've had it. I kept the Tropicana Cookies cart screwed in, and I was rolling around with it in my pocket all the time. And when I was ready, I would click the button on the side, out it comes, pop off the little rubber silicone tip from the top, hold the button, and there it is. I think the functionality of this battery is second to none. This is easily the best vaporizer battery that I've tried. It's a lot of fun to swing the cart around like I told you about, but it's also functional in terms of protective. It is playful and it is practical. And I just think that really speaks to a good design. And then a little bit to what Kym was talking about in our interview in terms of their creation of these products, this Tropicana Cookies cart. The fact that so many other vape carts made me sneeze personally. And again, let me know if that's something you deal with too. Maybe it's just me. But even if it is just me, this THCA Tropicana Cookies cart from TribeTokes, it did not make me sneeze. The flavor was very pleasant, slightly sweet. I would say I picked up more of the Tropicana than the cookies. It's more of a fruity sweet than like a cake or a cupcake sweet. Speaking of cupcake, I just want to mention my daughter Violet's first birthday was last weekend, Saturday, in Morton Grove. My sister Molly hosted the party in her building. My mom really put the whole thing together, and it was just such a wonderful time. The theme was Ladybug. And Violet had her first dose of sugar, which was a cupcake. It was kind of a larger one. They call it like a smash cake. She wasn't as into it as I thought she was going to be. I was kind of expecting, her to get her first, dose of frosting, and I was hoping to see those little pupils just like shoot wide open. It didn't really happen that way. She was kind of confused. Maybe it was the texture, the bright colors of the frosting. But she kind of enjoyed it, and she certainly enjoyed spending all that time with the family, and it was a wonderful occasion, and I just was reminded of that. And so I just wanted to kind of let you know. I told you last week that her birthday was coming up, and we just had a wonderful family occasion to celebrate that milestone, and Gretchen and I were just blown away by everybody who showed up. So thank you, everyone who did that. And I was sort of sparked on that mental tangent there by the cupcake thing. This cart, as I said, is more fruity than like a baked good, like a cookie or a sweet. But on the 3.7 volts, for me, it's very smooth. I found myself pulling on this all the time, and it lasted a good long while. I am definitely going to be getting myself another cart from TribeTokes. I want to keep using this vape battery. And like I said, I've shared pictures of these on the social media. Check it out, see for yourself kind of what I'm talking about here. But I think if you're like me, you will find that this rotation of clicking the cart down into the protected gap so that it's just sort of like holstered, and then pressing the button to like withdraw it, the way that a car key comes out, and then smoking it, it never stops being fun. And I think the fun as well as the function of this product, along with the cart itself, these are wonderful. You can just really tell the care that went into this design. And it speaks to a lot of what Kym talked about in our interview. She was not just blowing smoke there. TribeTokes really does, clearly, based on these products I've tried from them, they clearly do take the making of these very seriously, and they're looking out for people's health. They're not just throwing stuff to make a product cheaply and get it up on shelves and mass produce it. They want to make the best products that are the best for us and make us feel the best. And for my money, this TribeTokes vape battery, along with their Tropicana Cookies cart, both of these prove that they are succeeding at what they set out to do, because these are both the best vape battery and vape cart that I have ever tried. I will tell you about some other TribeTokes products next week. I got to try their gummies. They also were kind enough to send a topical, which I haven't gotten a chance to try yet. But I have linked their website below in the description notes as well. You can click on the line underneath TribeTokes. It'll take you to TribeTokes.com. You can see these products for yourself. And again, because a lot of them are CBD based and such, you can order them no matter where you are, which I think is fantastic. I also think that 420 falling on Easter Sunday is particularly fantastic. Something that I have not experienced in my time as a stoner, at least not as I was paying attention. I'm sure if I looked at a calendar over the last, 20 years, this may have happened before, but just not when I noticed it one way or the other. I am so looking forward to Sunday. I don't know what you have planned, but if you're looking for things to do, there is a whole host of 420 events all across America this weekend. And there's an article here from greenstate.com that I have also linked below that has a nice collection of them. They break it down state by state. So right at the top of the article, you can jump to a specific state if you are in any one of these that they covered. Those would be Arizona, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Florida, Illinois, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Montana, Nevada, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Washington, D.C., Washington State, and then there are virtual events as well. So if you're not in one of those states and you don't have the means to get there, or it's just not going to work out for you that way this year, there are virtual events too. Get on Zoom and get zooted. Have some fun with people over a screen. There's no reason why you can't socialize in 2025 from the comfort of your own home. Now, there are a lot of events, depending on which state you're looking in. You can probably guess California has among the most 420 events coming up this weekend. Colorado has a good amount. Pleased to see that Illinois has more than a few on their list as well, as does Michigan. But as I said, I have linked the article below. I'm just going to go through the offerings from Illinois because that's where I'm at right now. There's the 420 Green Steam Festival in Chicago this weekend, running from 5 to 11, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The Cosmic Karma Club's 420 party, also in Chicago. Cannaverse Battle competition in Chicago as well. The Cookies Bloomington celebration is in Bloomington, as they say. Muddy Creek & Co. 420 block party is in Lawrenceville, Illinois. And the final event this weekend, Holding It Down for the Underground Volume 4, is in Orland Hills, Saturday, running from 6 to 10 p.m. That is the list of Illinois 420 events, but as I mentioned, some other states like California and New York have tons of events this weekend. So check out this list, which is linked in the description notes below, and hopefully you can find an event where you'll be able to get out in a place that's near you and celebrate 420 in style, because nothing really shows how mainstream that cannabis is becoming, this Green Frontiers expansion. Nothing really charts it as well as the expansion of 420 events, because there are, I don't know if you've seen this, but there are advertisements for 420 all over the place. It is not just in the cannabis space. There is a giant 420 ad on a billboard in New York City's Times Square right now. So it just, for me, is very, very satisfying to see this level of normalcy and for cannabis to be embraced this widely. I think that 420 shows that better than any other time of the year. And so this weekend, with 420 falling on Easter Sunday, I'm going to end this episode in a way that I have really come to enjoy ending these episodes, with a little stoner poetry, courtesy of the haiku. I like to write these 3-line poems that go along with the theme of whatever this episode might have been, one of the themes anyway. And this weekend, given that it is our holiday of 420 and it falls on Easter Sunday, lots to celebrate this weekend. I hope you have a feast planned. I hope you're able to get out to any one of those cannabis events that look so fun, and just take part in the celebration that is going to be sweeping across the country this weekend. And even though, as I say sometimes on the show, even though cannabis might not be where we'd like it to be in terms of its legal status, the prohibition is still very frustrating. The federal criminalization, the Schedule I status of cannabis, is definitely a joke that needs to change. But look at where we are today, 420 of 2025, and look at how different it is today than it was 20 years ago. That's progress. It's very easy to fixate on the goal. It's very easy to look at where you want to be, the top of the mountain, and be solely focused on that. But it's really important to stop and turn around every once in a while to see how far you've come. And that is absolutely the case in terms of the global society and how far we have come in terms of legalizing cannabis. We're not where we want to be, but we're a whole heck of a lot better, in a better place than we were 20, 30 years ago. And so to help celebrate that is this week's haiku. I've actually written 3 of them, so I'm putting my buddy Reg Kiefer to work here. He's going to rifle through all 3 of these for this week's High Haiku.
I took an extra deep hit there for Jesus, because it's Easter 420. Bunny in the grass, hiding eggs and mellow vibes. Dank resurrection. Yeah, dude. That was really good. I'm going to start the music over again because I feel weird just reading it dry. Here's the next one. Blazing Easter morn. Found an egg, but lost my stash. Bunny, was that you? More of an Easter theme there, eh, Don? All right, let's go for this one more here. Clouds shaped like a cross float above green sacred fields. Each puff a rebirth. Whoa. I like that one the best. Last one was good, Don.
Thank you, Reg. Yeah, I think I like the first one the best. I also like the "Bunny, was that you" line. That was pretty well delivered. I like the idea of somebody accusing the Easter Bunny of stealing their stash. But hey, that probably will happen a lot this Sunday, given that it is 420 on an Easter. I hope you are able to celebrate that in style, something that doesn't come around very often. So we should party like it's 1999, because if you weren't around back then, that was a heck of a party. New Year's Eve, Y2K thing. I think a little bit like COVID. There was not as much because it wasn't a pandemic, but people did definitely, some people anyway, had this vibe about them, like something was going to happen and society was going to be irrevocably changed the morning of January 1st, 2000. And obviously that didn't happen, and here we still are, ready to enjoy a holiday weekend packed, hopefully, with stoner activities and lots of product supply whatever you choose to imbibe, whatever you're going to ingest cannabis-wise. Make sure you get it by Friday, I would say, because there's a good chance a lot of these places are going to run out of product based on how many people are going to get set for their weekend. I think normally Thursday and Friday, just like the grocery stores, people want to get their shopping done early so they've got their stash and supply for the weekend. So be a part of that group that plans ahead. Get out there. Check out the Grasslands gift guide for 420 that I have linked below. Big thanks to my friends at TribeTokes, especially KymB, for stopping by and sharing her journey as well as the company philosophy on their products. Definitely check out their vape, battery, and cartridges, TribeTokes.com. Fabulous. Just the best I have tried. No questions about that. And if you enjoy extracts, if you enjoy concentrates, what do you think in terms of the way of extraction, the method of extraction, solvent-based or solvent-less? If you have an opinion about that, text the show at the link below and tell me your thoughts about which is better. And while you're at it, leave a rating or a review for the show on whichever platform you choose to consume your podcasts. I would really appreciate it if you could leave a positive rating or review for this one. And as always, thank you for listening. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your Easter. Spend some time with those you love. If you can't be there in person, send them a text, give them a call, let them know how you feel about them, because life is short and it does go by fast, and I promise you, you'll regret it if you don't take the chance now. Have a great holiday, and we will talk next week on the Cannabis Man podcast. Bye-bye. Cannabis Man is 100% originally crafted by myself, Don Kleppen. Original theme music written and composed by Yusu Kim, aka Good Son.